Yo, 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 what up? So, I didn't want to make a guide until I got to like a year. I'm going to try to do the background very quickly and I'm going to try to break my learning process up into three big stages. The beginning, when I really didn't know anything, months like 4 to 7, where I started feeling like I knew stuff and could speak to people, and then 8 months to now, where I feel like I'm at a place where I can have conversations. But obviously, I have so much to learn. Let's get straight into it. My background: I went up to Spanish 2 in high school. So I already knew the alphabet. I like roughly knew the sounds of Spanish, and I knew conjugations and like random vocabulary words. But I literally didn't know a thing about the past tense. Didn't know a thing about the future tense. And I graduated high school in 2010, so that was a long time ago. And throughout those years, I've had Duolingo on my phone, and so I'll just randomly like once a week pass a level, but like I literally didn't know anything. And so the thing that made me interested in learning Spanish, like taking it seriously, was I got a client once. I'm a personal trainer. I got a client, and she didn't speak any English, and I was having so much trouble communicating with her. It was crazy. So I kept having to look stuff up on my phone, and I'm just like, man, I need to just like get serious and learn this stuff. I tried with Duolingo, and it just didn't go anywhere. Like I literally felt like I didn't improve. I just learned more words, but I still didn't understand people when they spoke, and I still could never form any sentences on my own. And one day during the quarantine, actually in 2019, I was watching a video, and the guy was talking about acquiring a language like a child and comprehensible input, and it just made so much sense to me. Like I literally have always hated school. I've done well in school, but I've hated it. I just hate the format of like formal learning. And so this way that he was talking about, I was like, I want to give that a shot, right? And through weightlifting, I know someone in Colombia, and we've always messaged each other in like broken Spanish or English on Instagram. And it was the quarantine, and he was out of work, and I said, hey, how would you like to teach me Spanish? Like, just talk to me. You don't even have to do anything super formal, and I'll pay you. And he said, cool. And we started. And the progress that I made was so rapid that I just got angry at myself for all the years that I was on Duolingo and doing super formal stuff. Anyways, let's get into it. I'm going to put all the links to the stuff that I use in the description. And I'm also going to try to do the chapter thing that people do. I've never done that, so I don't even know how to do it, but I'll figure it out. So let's start with months 1 to 3, roughly. I started talking to him on Skype. We were doing 3 times a week. And it was there that I realized that I didn't know shit. Like, he would just ask me, what did I do today? And like I said, I knew how to conjugate in first person, but I didn't know how to say stuff in the past. So I would want to say I woke up, and I would say, me levanto. And he'll be like, no, that's present. Tell me what you did in the past. I'm like, me levanto. And I just didn't know the past tense, And so we would identify things that I didn't know, and then we would work on it. So it was like reverse school. It wasn't like, this is what we're going to work on today, and like you already know it or something. It's just like when we came across something that I just had no idea how to do, we would say, okay, you need to learn how to conjugate stuff in the past. Okay, you need to learn how to conjugate stuff in the future. And so, yeah, like I said, that was super, super humbling. And at that point in time, I didn't even try to speak Spanish to people that I encountered in the street and stuff. If I heard them speaking Spanish, I would like try to see if I could understand anything they said, but I would never tell them that I was learning Spanish. I was like too scared to talk to them and shit like that. During that stage, the books that I use, I have a lot more, but I just want to kind of give you an example of the kind of children's books that I was using. And so I'll put the names of all of these in the bio, but I just want to let you know I was going on Amazon and I was buying this stuff as if I was teaching a little kid, because that's what I was, a little kid in Spanish. So just like you get children a children's book, I got myself a children's book. And just in case I didn't address this, I already knew the alphabet, and that's super important. someone that I follow on here, Mike Ben, he talked about how he didn't learn the alphabet until later and he really regretted it. That was something that I'm glad that I did know. And knowing the sounds, I'll call him my professor. My professor was really strict about the sounds of Spanish. And I'm really grateful that it was like that, because if you know the alphabet and you know the sounds, you can read any word, you can recognize any word and be able to write it, because Spanish is super phonetic. Like, it's never going to be like English where it's like Arkansas, Kansas, oh, they're spelled the same except they sound nothing alike. It's never like that in Spanish. So during that time, I used those books, like I said, and I had books on my phone. It was short stories in Spanish or short Spanish stories. I don't remember, but I'll put a picture and a link to it. And like the typical Madrigals book, where it just kind of shows you all like the conjugates, like all these words that sound like English words, and it just helps you kind of recognize more stuff. So I did that. Two series that I watched were La Nina, which is based in Colombia, and El Dragon, which is based in Mexico. Didn't understand shit when I was watching that show, or either of those shows. English subtitles, didn't understand a thing, but it was cool. And I was picking up stuff as I was watching, having these conversations with Will, watching these shows. I started picking up more and more, and that's that comprehensible input. Just, it's stuff that you can just barely make out, or you have to struggle to understand, but I was getting more. And in this process, one of the only YouTubers I followed at the time that related to Spanish was Bilingüe Blogs, Ricky. That dude's channel is awesome. You will learn a lot from his channel. Outside of like my professor, that's the only like grammar type channel that I followed at the time. But he does skits and all kinds of stuff, man. Like, that's an excellent resource. I'm gonna move on to months 4 to 7, and I'm gonna do just like I did on the last one. I'll tell you what was kind of going on at that stage, and then I'll tell you what I was doing at the time. Months 4 to 7, I started feeling a lot more comfortable expressing like my basic thoughts and feelings, like just saying I'm tired, just saying, I don't know, I feel like this, or I want this, and it would be cool if this happened, whatever, like semi-complex stuff, just like more than I'm hungry, I'm whatever, you know. But I still couldn't say multiple sentences without thinking really hard, and I still couldn't talk like any kind of fast. I got my progress videos on here somewhere. So at this time, because of some YouTubers I followed, like Mike Ben, I always mention this dude because I just really want to give him his props, because I've told him before, but he like really motivated me to start learning more. But because I followed him, I started watching a grammatical podcast called No Hay Dos, and I was already following a Speak Spanish Faster channel. So during that time, I started following more grammatical podcasts because I started getting a better hold of the language, and I wanted to learn some like more grammar without actually studying grammar. Because like I said, like I just really just not down with formal lessons. I need context. I need to hear people say this stuff. Like, I don't want to write stuff in a book. I never use any note cards in this process. I never wrote anything down. And that might not be for you, but for me, I don't use flashcards. Like, it just doesn't, that shit doesn't work for me. I need context. I need to see it in a sentence. I need to hear it in a sentence. I need to hear it being spoken. And it sticks with me that way. I could look at a flashcard 50 times and I'll still forget that shit. I just will. And on top of that, I don't save words. Like, if I hear a word in a video or in a conversation, I don't like go write it down or anything, because I'm like, if it's a frequent word, I'm gonna hear it again. And if it's not a frequent word, it's not that important to me. So yeah, during this period, I started going to a Mexican boxing gym, and I started gaining more confidence to the point that I would like say little Spanish words to them and tell them that I was learning Spanish so they could speak Spanish to me, but I still wasn't super comfortable just like trying to speak in Spanish, just like greetings and salutations and, you know, basic feeling stuff. I started watching Death Note in Spanish with English subs though, and I think I already said I was following Speak Spanish Faster, but I was also using How to Spanish podcast. I bought another short stories in Spanish book, and I started trying to read this book called Barranquilla 2132, but that shit was kind of heavy. Like at that time, I was like, whew, like I can't read this like without having to look up words. And when I read, like I want to read for enjoyment, and I think the flow also helps you learn. Like you need to understand a lot of what you're reading to gain the context of the words that you don't know. If you don't know a single word that you just read, it's probably not going to help you that much. Whereas if you know 90% of it, but you don't know two words, you can probably figure out one through context, and the other one maybe you could look up or ignore, and you still understand like what you just read in the chapter. So yeah, that was really months 4 through 7. At this point in time, that's when I actually started following Mike Ben, and there's a YouTuber, Emmy Grace. Mike is definitely ahead of me in Spanish. I don't think Emmy is, but I really enjoy her videos. She shares like her learning process and how she studies, and she's really open and honest, and I value that. That's why I follow Mike. That's why I still follow her. Like I said, even if I don't necessarily feel like I'm learning from her, I enjoy seeing the process. I love seeing people like how they click, and you know maybe if I help someone else in the future, I can say, oh, I follow this YouTuber, Emmy Grace. This is what she does. So very cool channel. I'll put the link to both of them in the bio, and hopefully you guys like it. And then so month 8 to now, I'm reading a lot more, and I think I have been developing rapidly because of it, because I can see all these grammatical structures. Sometimes when you're listening to someone talk, you don't even know that they're saying something. You can understand the gist of it, but you might not even realize that they're saying this one word. Like sometimes if you're saying a complex sentence, you might not hear a or a de or something like that, and so you might end up saying it wrong because you're mimicking it, but you don't know that you're missing something. But when you're reading it, and I've been also doing like audiobook plus reading, that shit is like a cheat code. Then I can see like, oh, I didn't even hear that. I would have been saying the shit wrong. So I can see and I can hear. So I've been reading some books that I've already read in English, Animorphs. I read a new book, The Silent Patient. Shows that I'm watching right now, or I just finished Amar y Vivir. It's based in Colombia. Me and my fiance are currently watching La Reina del Flow, Queen of the Flow. Pretty good. It's in Colombia. If you're not if you're not very experienced with Spanish, it's gonna trip you up because they use el voceo. They talk with vos, and it changes the conjugations. Like they don't talk in the tu form, like like a regular, let's say regular Spanish speaker might say cuéntame, and they say contame. Like it's really different. But where my Spanish teacher is from, that's how he talks, and he talks to me with vos, so it's not that weird to me. But if you don't have any experience with that, that's just gonna fuck you up. Podcasts that I watch now, I pretty much exclusively watch this dude named Chente. He's a Puerto Rican, and he interviews a lot of Puerto Ricans. Like he got content every single day, and his accent is hard to understand just because he's Puerto Rican, but he talks clearly enough to where if you're at that level, you can definitely understand most of the conversation. And I watch a financial dude who's also from Puerto Rico named Jose Galindez. A podcast I discovered late in the game in this stage, Lightspeed Spanish. It's a couple, and it's a really good channel, man. Like, one of them is a Spanish speaker that learned English. The other one is an English speaker that learned Spanish. And they're a couple, and like having someone that's a native Spanish speaker explain something is cool. But then you have the guy that learned Spanish that can explain from a Spanish learner's point of view, which is oftentimes very different. Like when you just speak a language, sometimes you have no idea why you're saying stuff, and it's hard to explain it to someone else. Like the expression that has nothing to do with that. Like that doesn't sound weird to me, but sometimes my friend, he'll say, has nothing to do. And I'm like, yeah, like it has nothing to do with that. But you can't really explain it past that. It's like, that's just what you say. Like, it's not related to that. It has nothing to do with that. And so when someone speaks your language, they could say, this is like this. Don't worry about why it is. It's like this. And, or they might be able to explain why it's like that. And that makes a huge difference. And the last thing I discovered in this stage was an app called Storytel, and it has a lot of audiobooks in Spanish. If you set your region, I just lie and say I'm from Colombia. Set your region to somewhere else and just listen to audiobooks in Spanish. But for the most part, like here, like I said, now the stage that I'm at now, I can have conversations with anybody. I met a dude in a barber shop from Venezuela that literally spoke 0 words of English. And, you know, Spanish speakers always tell you that you speak well, even if you don't. But, you know, he told me I spoke really well. And he thought, like, because I told him I learned from someone in Colombia, he thought that I was from Colombia. And I was trying to tell him, like, no, I'm from here. I learned from somebody from Colombia on Skype. And he was just like, wow, like your accent, I thought you were from Colombia, blah, blah, blah. And so I feel like I'm doing okay. I feel like I say that I'm at an intermediate level, and I mainly say that like being fake humble, because I don't want anyone to be like, oh, you think you're advanced. You're not advanced because you don't know this, that, and the other. I genuinely don't think I'm advanced. I do think I'm pretty intermediate. Like I said, I can understand almost any conversation I hear unless it has heavy slang. I can talk to anybody. I can talk about anything. Just like some very complex grammatical structures will trip me up. Like the subjunctive is just tough, because in English the subjunctive doesn't really change the way you talk, and it does in Spanish. Or when you're talking, it's still the subjunctive, but when you're talking about like, what would you do if this happened? Or if you would have did this, do you think blah, blah, blah? That's like nothing to me in English, but in Spanish, I'm like, hubiese, hubiera. And it's just like, you just like, oh man, like I have to think a little bit harder. But if I'm not speaking in the subjunctive, like I'm pretty smooth, and I can pretty much say everything that I want to say. So that's really it. Any questions y'all have, man, I will answer them in the comments. I hope this helps, because when I was starting this part of the journey, when I got more serious and I just said, like, I'm going to start really listening to Spanish and trying to speak, I was looking for a video like this. I wanted to see, like, the process somebody went through. And all I saw was, I got fluent in 6 months. I got fluent in a year. This is the book I used. I'm like, damn, how long did you study? Like, what was hard about it? Like, and I didn't see anything like that. So I hope this is complex enough for you guys. I didn't include any music just because that wasn't a part of my studying. I genuinely like music, so all the music I listened to, even in Spanish, it was like for enjoyment. It wasn't considered studying to me. And yeah, 1 hour, 3 times a week conversation. Besides that, like I said, it was random shows, random music. The conversation was the most important thing, and addressing the things that I was lacking when I was having those conversations. So even though it wasn't formal, I still was attacking my weaknesses. Like I said, I made sure I had a solid foundation with the alphabet and the sounds. Okay, let me say this before I get off of here. This is my closing advice. Learn the fucking alphabet. Learn the sounds. You're going to feel like you're impersonating. You're going to feel like an imposter if you speak with an accent that you hear. But you need to do that. You need to imitate, because one of the things that makes you understood is like your intonation. If I say, I don't know, I'm about to go to the store, and you speak English, you won't think anything of it because I talk like other people that speak English. But if I say, I'm about to go to the store, you might have said, what? Like, what did you just say? Because it's just so off. Like, that's not the rhythm that we speak in. So it's the same thing with Spanish. Like, you you need to pronounce the fucking letters the right way. You need to speak like everyone else speaks. Like, if you don't, like, yeah, you might be understood, but like, if you're gonna learn the language, like, put a full effort in, bro. Like, don't speak like a gringo just because you don't want to like feel like whatever, you know. Like, learn the sounds and pronounce them hard. Like, exaggerate that shit. If you're doing it too hard, someone will say, "Hey, relax. You don't need to roll the R that hard." But they're probably not gonna say that. That was one of the mistakes that I had, like, going into it. I wouldn't pronounce stuff like hard enough. Like, you know, the U sound is a oo, but it's more like a in English, and like it would just feel funny. Like, I felt wrong, like pronouncing it that hard. I don't know how to explain it, but learn the alphabet, learn the sounds, try to speak with the rhythm that everyone else speaks. Like, don't feel like you need to speak like a gringo. You don't have to. Besides that, like I said, attack your flaws. Try to say things that you would like. Think about the things that you say in English and learn how to say them in Spanish. Every time I say something in English, I think, how would I have said that in Spanish if someone asked me the same thing? Because then you're like more prepared if someone asks you a question in Spanish. Other than that, it doesn't take a huge amount of time. Like I said, besides my 3 hours of conversation, I was listening to these podcasts on the way to work, on the way home, and I'll watch shows occasionally. But I don't like obsess over it. Like, I still watch regular shows with my fiance. Like, we still watch You. We watch all this other stuff. Like, my whole life is not like, oh, I'm only gonna do stuff in Spanish now. Like, nah, I just made it a priority. I do it when I can, and I do something every single day. That might be hard for some people, but I feel really good doing something every single day. Whether that's listening to a podcast or like reading my book. Just sometimes I say I'm just gonna read one page because I know I'll read more. I say I'm just gonna read one page and then get on with my day. And if I just stop at a page, I'll still feel fine. Like, I did something for the day, and that allows me to do less. Because if you're only doing twice a week, 3 times a week, you're gonna feel like I need to put in an hour of studying, 2 hours of studying, whatever. I just do what's comfortable for me. Like I said, haven't done anything formal, haven't written anything down, haven't done any flashcards. If anybody wants to quiz me, surprise me with a video call, go ahead. You'll see. I might not be the best Spanish speaker in the world, but like I said, I'm conversational. I'm only going to get better from here. Like I said, if you need anything, comment. I'll try to answer, or I'll try to give my advice. And I'll give you the contact from my guy in Colombia. He's not on italki or anything like that, but he loves teaching. He has a part-time job, but he loves teaching, so he'll make time for you. A couple of you anyways. If there's a lot, I can't make any promises, but thank you for watching this video. This shit was so long, and I really hope that it saved on my phone, and I'm happy to help. I hope this helps at least one person. Have a good night, have a good day, whatever.